At this point in the process, I must remind you, I know very little about what's going to happen. I only speak from my own personal experiences and my wife's communication with Jen's spirit. I can be pleasantly surprised one moment, and at others, my energy drops like a rock. This morning a song called Levitating was on the radio. This song is played more than any other song I have heard on the radio in years. I have been trying to figure out what the message in this song is for months. While it was playing, I got a feeling like I was floating, not literally, but just a general feeling of lightness. My wife and I were discussing some things from our life, and the energy shifted. I went from being aggravated and the two of us arguing, to tears, to shutting down and just sitting in silence for a bit. I don't know what it was, but I couldn't shake the feeling all day. I usually take a couple showers a day. I am a water sign and I use my time in there to meditate and do a cleansing visualization. I ask to wash away blockages in my life and all negative energy I picked up during my travels. While we were on this car ride, a rock was shot up by a truck and chipped my wife's windshield. I immediately got the message that it was wake-up call. I have been trying to find answers on soul bonding and soul merging, but there is very little info on the subject. Several of the pages I tried to go to had errors or wouldn't load. Most of the information I have come across had information which had to do with twin flames. Most of the information had to do with when they are both alive in the physical realm. I came across a few articles and comments about what happens when a twin flame dies. Yet again, there was very little info. In one article, the author wrote they were having very similar experiences as me, both before and after their twin flame had passed. There were comments on other websites where there were several other people who also had very similar incidents, like songs playing repeatedly on the radio. It had been happening for 4 years for one person. I guess in a way, this journey may very well be a guide for those who come after me. At this point, we must dig deeper into what twin flames are. Twin flames are souls that are connected before they come to the earthly realm. They are two souls that come from one soul and will return to that state again. That doesn't mean they won't still have their own identity and still be the soul of your past loved one. Twin flames are mirrors of each other. That's why they often have rocky relationships, but despite that, they are continually pulled back together. Twin flames share a collective energy, and that energy is magnetized back to the other, whether it be here in the earthly plane, or in the afterlife. Or, as in the situation, across both realms. When twin flames reunite, they almost instantly have the same connection they did during their previous meetings. Some of the people in those articles felt they were easily able to communicate with their twin flame, who has passed. They often receive signs there with them. There were several theories of what happens during this process. I'm going to go through my own experience and thoughts on this. I have now come to believe, the day Bob had sent me the message that Jen had passed away, is exactly when Jen's spirit and soul reconnected with mine. This was just the beginning of the process. There are likely going to be many steps along the way. My wife told me earlier, Jen was on chapter 7 of the book she must read on the other side. The true beginning of the reconnection process started when Jen's spirit made her decision to form a soul bond and have her soul merge with mine. There are some in-depth theories on twin flames meeting each other in different human forms in the same lifetime. For example, if one passes away at a young age and the other meets them again after reincarnating. This doesn't always mean into a newly born person's body either. That's a much more complicated subject than I would like to get into. At this point in the story, I must pause and say something to those closest to Jen. It doesn't matter if you're her parent, her child, a past lover of hers, a lifelong friend, or someone whose life was controlled by some unhealthy attraction to her, or someone who had an unhealthy jealousy against others who had what you wanted. Much like for me, this part of Jen's journey has just begun. She's going to spend some time looking at her life and reliving many memories. You get to go back and relive your memories of her, but she's reliving every memory of her entire life. Much like I have been over the last month or so, she is going to feel some very strong emotions and energy, and I am likely to feel it too. All your pain isn't instantly removed when you arrive on the other side. There is a process you must go through until you get to that point. The sheer number of words to write your entire book of memories is unfathomable to the human brain, or as much of it as we have learned to use up to this point. We must go into the Akashic realm philosophy now. In the Akashic realm, there is an Akashic record, a book that contains the record of all souls that have incarnated. This takes us to the principle that our life is already written in stone before we are born. Although I don't understand it, or why it's happening, this leads me to believe it's been destined, since long before now, and before both me and Jen were born onto this planet. As this process goes forward, and the energy gets stronger, and our souls connect fully, the gifts I have been experiencing may get stronger. I may have many more unexplainable experiences. I may be visited in my dreams. I may have a need to do things I never did before, or things she always wanted to do. In a sense, Jen's spirit may live vicariously through me. Much like people still don't fully understand autism, I may also be a piece of the puzzle for others, who are also experiencing this, or have previously. Although it may seem rare at this point, it could be more common than we are aware of. There is likely other like me having similar experiences and be confused like myself. I fortunately have the advantage of living with 2 psychic mediums, but there are likely others, who have no idea what they are experiencing. I could only imagine what that would feel like. They might think they were hallucinating, or they have some mental health condition. Now imagine the poor little kids who have gifts like my wife and daughter. These are the kids that tell mommy and daddy, there is man in their closet, or a monster under their bed. Many humans just chalk it up as a fear in the dark and fail to recognize the possibilities of what could truly be happening. My wife seen things at an early age that to this day still scare her. Not all those things those kids are seeing are evil. Like I said before, I had an imaginary friend when I was a child, who I now know was just my grandfather's spirit. If you had an imaginary friend or have a child who does, it may very well be a real friend or relative who is now their spirit guide. In my travels for work sometimes, my deliveries would take me down the street where Jen lived with her parents. Our son's house is right next door. The few months before she passed, when I drove by, I never really seen anyone outside, and always wondered what she was up to. I hoped she was doing well. I thought maybe at some point I would see her outside, sometime around the time she passed, but before I knew she had, I seen her mother coming home one day, when I was on another delivery. She looked kind of down. For all I know, that could have been the day Jen had passed. After Jen's passing, I will get deliveries, and they yet again will take me past their home. After following the GPS directions, I realized that might not have been the fastest and most direct route to my destination. Remember, I talk to Jen's spirit, even if I can't hear her myself. Not yet anyway. My wife lets me know she is going with me, and the times when she doesn't go with me, it feels different. I have told Jen's spirit something, and told her if she has something to say, tell my wife. Within minutes, my wife will text me with the answer, or to tell me what she said. You can try to deny it, or say it's not real, or possible, but I know it's 100% real. There is no human explanation for it. There are so many things in our world that are yet to be discovered, but I believe from what I'm reading about an upgrade that the Earth is making from 3D to 5D. The Earth's upgrades are going to start coming fast and furious. I can't say for sure why I was navigated that way, but I was. There was another time when Jen's daughter was in front of her brother's house. One time she was walking one of Jen's dogs, and the other time she was sitting on her brother's steps, with her chin in her hands. As an empath, and I would imagine, because Jen's spirit was with me, I felt a feeling of grief come over me, like I hadn't ever felt. I don't know if the universe is sending me that way so she can see her home and family or not, but I also realize she doesn't need to travel with me to visit there. Her soul is also bonded with mine and merging with it for a greater purpose, and because they are one and the same, yet unique and individual mirrors of each other. If at this point you think I need psych evaluation, trust me, I don't. I have already had several, as well as neuropsychological testing, and just like the Sheldon Cooper meme, I am not crazy. I am autistic. I have ADHD, anxiety, panic attacks, and a lifelong depressive disorder, but I am not crazy. We are at the point in this journey where I may at times write something, and it may not really mean anything to me, but someone reading this may know exactly what it means. I may inadvertently reveal things I had no way of knowing. I don't know if that's the case. I am learning as I go. When this all started happening, my wife told me things were going to happen in spurts or waves. She was again 100% on the money. It seemed like a lull in things last night, till I remembered that Yen's spirit was on chapter 14 of her book of memories. This is about the age she had met me in our lifetime. I was 3 years older, and I'm surprised her parents let it slide, even after what happened later. They could have sent me to jail, but they didn't take that route. I was talking to her spirit, and I said she was going to likely go from being extremely happy to extremely angry in the next few chapters. Now understand, it's not the feelings we feel here in the earthly realms. It's pure energy. When it's positive, it's going to feel what we on this side call love. When it's anger, it's going to be an intense negative energy. I may or may not feel it, but it's likely. I simply asked her to keep it as light towards me as possible. At that point she spoke to my wife and stated that she didn't kill herself. She said everyone thinks she killed herself. Although her actions over time may have led to that result, I don't think she meant they were saying that. Let me assure you at this point, I have no idea how she passed away, or any knowledge of it, except from these experiences I am having, and that it was unexpected. When Jen's spirit first awoke and started communicating with my wife, she revealed some things. Now this is what my wife, an experienced psychic medium, has seen, and what Jen's spirit said to her. Let me first explain that things may not be exactly as how they are described. It also may not be the exact same item mentioned, it could be something similar. It may also not make sense, or add up to some people at first, and they may later realize it was something relevant. My wife seen a green bottle. She said it was some type of medicine bottle, and she said it looked like a bottle of melatonin. I can't confirm that personally, and have no knowledge, one way or another. After looking up bottles that looked like what she saw, she learned it was a melatonin bottle. After doing a bit of research, we learned that many countries have banned the use of melatonin, because it can cause fatal overdoses. If you had a certain type of health condition that can't process this, it may back up in your system, and then release in a lethal dose. That is just my opinion, and you should seek medical advice from a doctor, if you would like to know if that can happen, or before taking, or not taking any medication. This set off 24 hours or so, of fast and furious synchronicities and signs. We must go back to the soundtrack of this journey again. The song, Forever After All, by Luke Combs, keeps playing repeatedly, and when this all started happening, I discover a song called, Back from the Dead Alive, by Hailstorm. The price of gas has been $3.33, at the gas station I go to almost daily, for weeks, maybe even back to October, when Jen passed. I was watching a video of one of the songs by Sully Erna, I mentioned earlier. That video had 666 likes, and no, that's not a bad thing. It's an angel number, and you can look up what means for yourself, as well as any other angel number that you may be seeing. The son me and Jen have together was born in July of 1992, and when I went to pick up a delivery today, 792 was randomly spray painted on the pavement. At several points throughout the day, I will speak to Jen's spirit, as she stays with me a lot. I was on my way to a city outside of my delivery area, so I told her I will get lunch when I am there. I was texting my wife and told her I was eating lunch, and it reminded her, Jen's spirit had been telling her I need to eat something all day. She had been busy, and hadn't been able to text me until that point. At one point, when I was talking to Jen's spirit, a song by Keith Urban called, Kiss a Girl, came on the radio. I have one of those digital radios that tells you the song and artist, and it said Keithy. There is no Y in the artist's name, or the title of the song. I took a picture of this. Another thing I also noticed, people were just looking at me, like they were intrigued for some reason. Maybe they were feeling my frequency, or they were intrigued. I really can't say. The day went on and I surpassed my daily goal. A song came on the radio, and it said work, work, work. I took that as sign, it was time for me to stop for the day, and I said after my next delivery, I will be done. That delivery took me to the building, where someone else from my past once lived, when I first started my polyamorous lifestyle. I dated one of my wife's longtime friends. Much like Jen, she had a problem with addiction, but she is addicted to more hardcore stuff. I thought I loved her at the time, and she hadn't totally gone down her path of destruction at that point. I have come to realize now, I was just trying to use her to fill some void I felt inside of myself. Then weird thing is, I have felt that void for years, and in the last 5 weeks or so, I haven't felt that way once. I am usually a person who thinks impending doom is around the corner and every crisis will be the end of everything, despite making it through, everyone to date. A few years after we ended that relationship, she found herself in an abusive relationship. My wife and I, and another ex-boyfriend of hers, helped her move out of the situation. She came to live with us for a little while, but she had already started down her path of self-destruction. When we were moving her out, the boyfriend tried to run us off the road by driving like a crazy person. I counteracted his move by driving on the sidewalk. I didn't know why I even did that at the time, but now know it was my guardian angel Amber, taking the wheel. Both my wife and I have moved on from our relationships with her. We have written her off as someone we can't help. I didn't feel that way about Jen, despite everything that happened years ago. If she had shown up at my door, and said she needed my help, I would have done whatever possible to help her. I am an empath and I attract a lot of broken people. Unfortunately, most of them will not allow you to be a healing force in their life. As you may have noticed, there is a pattern there, and I still have work to do, to prevent myself from having to learn the same lessons repeatedly. Lessons are repeated on our journey, throughout lifetimes, till we learn them. My wife and I were eating dinner today, and she asked me, if we are twin flame souls, and we need to connect, why doesn't she just reincarnate in another person, and merge with their soul? At first, I didn't have an answer, but after going outside and thinking about it for a few minutes, the answer suddenly came to me. As we discussed about twin flames passing away and then reincarnating, there are several reasons why this would not work. The first is, you would reincarnate in a newly born human body, causing a massive age difference. Another reason would be, it may be possible for the soul that reincarnates, and the living twin flame's soul, to miss each other during the newly incarnated soul's lifetime. They would both have to repeat the cycle throughout lifetimes until they connect. This is where I came to a very interesting realization. The answer that came to me was that it's not necessary to reincarnate for our souls to merge. As our souls continue the bond and merge process, they will have shared experiences. I keep seeing messages I am going to meet a person I have been looking for all my life. We are just going to connect, and it's going to be a loving relationship that flows, like no relationship I have been in before. There is no need for Jen's soul to reincarnate in another body. She will experience this relationship and love, just as I am. I can't say for sure, but I am going to conclude, Jen felt this same type of void in her life, that I have all my life. This leads to me some other questions. I thought about how another person's soul is going to fit in the equation. This person is likely going to be someone who was in both of our soul tribes. I think it is necessary to have that type of connection right away, but not to the extent of twin flames. I believe this will allow Jen and I to experience a love we hadn't able to share in life. In my research of this subject, others have had this type of experience and have found the type of relationship I mentioned. They won't be part of our soul, but they will also feel something they never experienced in life. Time will only tell, but I have no reason to doubt it at this point. At some point, psychiatrists, psychologists, therapists, scholars, and others may study this journey. They may reach some conclusion that I have some unhealthy attachment to Jen, even now that she has passed. I assure you, even though I didn't get closure in the earthly realm, it is irrelevant. I am not experiencing something that requires therapy or medication. When I did take medications, a doctor prescribed for anxiety, I had an adverse reaction and became a very angry person. You can no more fix this with drugs than you can cure autism, which is a part of a person's personality and soul. Even when it comes to modern medicine, it has not advanced as much as we need it to. In many cases, the placebo effect is much more efficient. That will lead us into natural healing, like Reiki, crystals, and frequencies. Do not take any of these practices lightly, they have greater healing power than you understand. There is no greater power to heal oneself than from within. There are no external forces that can create the healing needed for our journeys here in the earthly realm. The exception would be angels, archangels, and other healing light beings, despite them not being in our physical realm. How that process was going to happen was chosen by forces I do not fully understand. There are many cases of miracle healings throughout our world, with no human understanding, or not at this point yet. Remember, we only use a small portion of our brains. That makes me ask why cases of autism are suddenly being diagnosed more frequently and more accurately. There is a purpose. There is more and more autistic people being diagnosed and born. Once they can embrace this and understand themselves collectively, they will go on to change the world we live in. That is why many autistic people are highly intelligent and some have extreme math skills. I know I have got off topic a little, but it's relevant to the story. This morning my wife walked in the room and was singing the song, "Take My Breath Away," by Berlin, and she couldn't stop singing it. She said she didn't really like the song, and Jen's spirit told her she did. My wife often sings Christmas music. She strongly dislikes it, and has no idea why she is singing it, aside from the fact, someone's spirit may have loved Christmas. That has happened for years, and since long before now. I of course, had to watch the lyrics video, then Jen's spirit said, finally to my wife. I don't know what the message or meaning of it is, but it will be revealed at the appropriate time. As an autistic person, I notice patterns in everything, and especially if something doesn't fit properly in the pattern. I have been trying to do more research on the soul bond process, but there is very little info readily available. There are some examples in pop culture, such as in the works of Marvel and DC, as well J.K. Rowling's book series, Harry Potter. There are also some examples in various role-playing video games. There was a pretty good description, but for whatever reason, they had listed it as fiction. If I was to guess, I would say it's for legal reasons. They stated in their description of soul bonding, that it was as old as humanity, and that's it been found both in the Bible and mythology. I will quote the author of the article here. It is usually portrayed as unbreakable and irresistible. A force that unites two people in a unique way. A soul bond can persist after the death of one or both partners and through numerous reincarnations. It can be very similar to soulmates, which are two or more people who are always meant to be together, or to twin flames, two persons born from a single original soul. The two go their separate ways, reincarnating many times, then spending their last lifetime or two together on Earth, so that they can reunite in ascension, no longer needing to reincarnate. Literature featuring this type of bonding dates back at least to the early 20th century. This leads me to the conclusion that actual soul bonding is rare and only happens to true twin flames. Soulmates and soul tribes form a different bond before coming to Earth. They are more likely companion souls to help you on your journey. Soulmates and soul tribe members can be strictly platonic relationships or lovers. In some instances, all of these can be siblings. In the case of twin flames, it is likely they would be born as twins. That may very well be why twins, triplets, etc., tend to be in sync with each other, or in tune, to put it in simpler terms. That would lead me to the conclusion that in the cases of triplets and quadruplets, and so on, this may be a case of the twin flame soul being spread between more than two people, likely for some bigger purpose I don't understand yet. My wife stated Jen's spirit said she had to watch what would be described here on our side as a movie. She was being shown memories of when we first met in life. She said she liked it, and it was playing on a loop, because there is something she needs to learn from it. She also said she was a turtle in a shell. When Jen and I were younger, she was turtle in a shell, she hadn't experienced life yet. The only way I can describe it is that she was a goody. She tried to be good and not get in trouble, but there were a few times that didn't work out listening to me. My mother believed other people were a bad influence on me, but I had that down pat myself. Of course, later in life that changed for her. Other people enabled her and became bad influences in her life. They didn't make her choices of what she did. She also told my wife she has found a way to communicate with me. She's been speaking to me in a multitude of ways, between the signs and speaking through my wife. After Jen passed, a woman in a group for polyamory, me and my wife have been in for years, asked my wife if she could message me. My wife told her it was fine, and she started messaging me not long after. I have communication issues, due to the conditions I live with. When people message me, they must keep my attention, or I will lose interest. It was never like that when I talked to Jen in life. It always just flowed and was like I never stopped talking to her. I have been noticing interesting patterns and other things in our conversations. When I first started talking to this woman, I knew nothing about her or what she looked like. I went into the whole thing with the idea it was going to be a learning experience for me. I have communication challenges, and I figured at the least, I could use it to improve my skills talking to people. I just talked to this woman and didn't even ask her what she looked like at first. The conversation just kind of flowed, like when me and Jen used to talk. It almost felt like Jen was using her, or my guides put this person there, to show me things. I have been extremely busy lately, to the point it's like there isn't enough hours in the day. Trust me, the few years before this one, often felt like there was too many hours in the day, but not now. I will keep talking to this woman for a while, and I get caught up in something, and then forget to get back to her. I have ADHD, as well as autism, and this is symptom of those. It's not intentional, but it keeps happening. Jen used to message me for a while like that, and then vanish for a while. She also would not message me, at various points throughout life. It used to make me so mad and confused. I now take this as a message from Jen, showing me a pattern I need to break moving forward. The woman stated it's okay, and she understands. We have been talking about what we are looking for, and what our interests are. As well as some other deeper stuff. It feels almost as if Jen's spirit is using this woman to get to know who I am now, as well as who I have always been. I now know what the woman looks like now, and despite not being physically attracted to her, I can't stop talking to her. Remember, people are put in our paths for a reason. I can at times be overwhelming to people. There is something inside me that oozes passion, and is more than most people can handle. When I used to talk to Jen, it may have very well been that way for her. When I truly have strong feelings for a person, I can be a little overwhelming. They may take it as clingy, or pushy, or in some instances, overreaching. The woman was sending me messages in a similar manner that I may had when speaking to Jen in our lives. I had to let the woman know we are just talking, and that there should be no expectations, and she stated she understood. I don't want to give anyone a false expectation. I also have been seeing a lot of posts lately about sharks. I even had some song pop up in my YouTube suggestions that was about a shark, but not the annoying baby one. I have no interests in sharks. I haven't searched any info about sharks. I don't normally even think about sharks, unless I am at the beach or if there is a news article about them like just today. I also received inspirational quotes on my newsfeed which include images of sharks. Basically, the only times I ever thought about sharks before was when thinking about Jen, and how I believe the shark may have been her spirit animal. If it's Shark Week, I might notice. I have never even watched an episode of that show, but that may change now. Jen's spirit at some point today said she was talking to me in her own way. Yet again, there is no way all these things are simply a coincidence. My daughter and I were on my porch today. She was drinking a Dr. Pepper soda. She has a bit of an addiction to this product. We were talking about how yesterday she was thinking about something, and it was making her angry, and then suddenly, she got squirted in the face by it. I have concluded between that, and the rock being shot at my wife's car window, they both have stronger power than they realize. They need to learn to control it. When me and my daughter were having a conversation about why it happened, we both thought we seen my wife's car coming down our street, and her driving it. When it got closer, we realized it was blue car like hers, but not her. I believe this to be a case of an imprint, or doppelganger. We have all been led to believe a doppelganger is another person who looks just like us, but that's not the case. If you do some research on doppelganger spirits, you will learn it's something totally different. Many people believe if they see their doppelganger, it means they're going to die. But that would only be true if it's your time to go. Remember, your path was determined before incarnating here in the earthly realm. In my research, often it's not you who sees your doppelganger, but someone who knows you. Like when my daughter and I had seen my wife. There are many instances of this phenomenon. People will say they seen someone, somewhere, and describe what they were wearing. In some cases, they don't own the clothing mentioned. This leads me to believe it's an imprint of some sorts. Either the person had been there, or they may be at some point in the future. I can't explain that any more than anything that is happening to me. I must believe it to be true. I have no reason not to believe it. I came across a book, written by a psychic medium on soul bonding, but there was no description. I know nothing about the author, or the exact contents of her book. I simply know the subject matter of her book, but not her views. I do not know if she experienced what I am, or she witnessed it with someone else, or if it's even remotely close to my situation. I am not going to read this book until my story is told, but I likely will after for research and to see if there are any similarities or answers are in it. That's her journey, and this is mine. Although every case of this can be compared, I am sure everyone who experiences this will have both similar things happen, yet have it been completely different situations altogether. I now know some of the greater reasons for this story. I still don't know the full reason for this journey. Mine and Jen's souls are still connecting, and as far as I can tell, it will take some time to fully merge. I have felt there was a bigger purpose for my life for a long time, and this may very well be a part of that. Although I have no expectations, I know this message will reach those who needs to see it. This may very well be a guide for those who read it and come after me. I may also be a guide for those who are going through this process, who do not understand what to expect. Heck, for all I know, it may very well have some purpose of changing humanity and views going forward. Remember, even the Bible has an Old Testament and a New Testament. Does that mean I think I am the second coming of Jesus? No, not at all, but I do think I have some purpose to help the earth and humanity evolve during the upcoming intense period of change to our earthly realm. What that entails has partially been revealed, and the rest will be, at the very time it's meant to be.